In 2013 at E3, Microsoft would announce the Xbox One, and as we know, it would be the successor to the mighty Xbox 360 that originally launched in 2005. The Xbox 360 sold north of 80 million consoles, and at the time was easily Microsoft's most successful system, bringing innovation to video games that are commonplace 2 generations later. The Xbox One launch was rough to say the least, and we know of its trajectory. But at E3 2013, it was almost a footnote during the show that Microsoft would announce another system, the Xbox 360 Model E. This console would be available for purchase on the same day, and to many, it likely never hit their radar. The Xbox One was the main focus. But in today's episode, we are going to take a closer look at the Xbox 360e, the last 360 console revision, and I think it's the most interesting in the 360's lineup. 2013 would be the final year of the 360. However, the very last Xbox 360 to be announced would be this Xbox 360e 500GB Blue Special Edition that was sold exclusively in Walmart in North America that came with 2 games, Call of Duty Ghosts and Black Ops 2, all for $249. This version released almost 1 year after the Xbox 360e went on sale in 2013, and it's the only alternate version of the Xbox 360e model to be ever released, and it was the last 360 to be produced. It was a great bundle at the time, and in my opinion, I've owned many a special edition model over the years, and I think this is definitely one of my favorites in terms of look and color. For those that haven't seen an Xbox 360e model, it's a modified design from the Xbox 360s, which was introduced by Microsoft in 2010, that featured a refined design, smaller form factor, lower power draw, and most importantly, an overhauled cooling system to combat the infamous Red Ring of Death issue that plagued the previous models. So let's take a closer look at this Xbox 360e model. On face value, while it looks like an adjustment in design from the Xbox 360 Slim, looking closer, it bears more resemblance to the original Xbox One VCR design. If we compare them side by side, you can immediately see the similarities. The left-hand side features a glossy finish, and the right side is a matte finish with the cooling grille. This design change was likely to offer a consistency to the Xbox family, with both the Xbox One and the 360e being sold in stores. At the time, there was much controversy of the always online nature of the Xbox One, and the 360e was the system that was cheaper, starting at $199 for the base model and could be played offline. In 2013, if you lived in a rural area, the Xbox One would basically be a paperweight, so the Xbox 360e would be a great solution for many. The 360e model runs quieter and cooler than the 360s, and I can tell you it's the quietest 360 that I've owned. Even playing games like Call of Duty Black Ops 2 or Red Dead Redemption, these games really make my system fans loud, and in this instance it's much more acceptable. Now on my particular Special Edition model, turning the system around shows a few interesting things. First, note that the system date of the unit is manufactured on August the 22nd, 2014. Now, I'm not suggesting that this is the very last unit that came off the assembly line, but it's definitely up there. This is the last revision of the motherboard known as Winchester. The Winchester motherboard revision is the very last iteration of 360 motherboard, and interesting fact to this day is that it has not yet been modded. And this is for a few reasons. The earlier JTAG header was removed, and this is going back as far as the 360 Slim in 2010. But even more recently, with the later reset glitch hack or RGS hack, this would normally be performed on a 360 Slim. Now it's interesting to note that there are 2 revisions of motherboard that run on the 360e. The earlier Corona revision motherboard is what was found on the launch model 360e units, and these are easily moddable with the reset glitch hack. But as far as I know, on the Special Edition Blue SE, you'll always get a Winchester motherboard. And 2 important revisions have been made on that motherboard. First, the reset line itself is filtered, and the post output has been disabled. This means that it renders the reset glitch hack worthless on this particular motherboard, at least of the making of this episode. It only took Microsoft all the way to the end of the 360 generation to come up with a good solution against modding. You'll also note that the power connector is different. The E model features a circular connector that's different from the previous models. The power supply is rated at 120 watts, and this is due to the Winchester's motherboard design. Simply put, the hardware is cheaper to make and requires less power. This is because the Winchester board has unified chips and requires less power overall. The other big difference is the complete removal of the multi-AV port, instead being replaced with a 1/8 inch breakout AV cable for composite output. Yes, that means I can still connect up my 360 to a CRT, but the AV port was removed as a cost-cutting measure, as most people had migrated to HDMI at this point. But the downside of this is, if you're looking to connect via component cables, you would need to buy an aftermarket one. Microsoft also removed the optical audio out found on previous 360 models, and also removed a USB port, leaving the 360E model with only 4 ports available. Another thing to note is that the power and eject buttons are smaller, but are physical buttons that have a click to them versus the previous Slim model, which only needed a light touch to use. So why then did Microsoft go to all this trouble to release an entirely new revision of the Xbox 360 on the same day as the Xbox One, knowing that the 360 hardware had a very limited shelf life at that point? Well, at the time, the 360 was the top-selling console of its generation. It had big blockbuster games, key Xbox exclusives like Gears of War, Halo and Titanfall, and of course Xbox Live Arcade. Xbox 360 titles were still being released, and Microsoft really began to push and offer television and entertainment apps not only on the Xbox One, but on the 360. Apps such as Netflix, Hulu, Amazon, YouTube are all available if you had access to Xbox Live Gold. These applications were very well established on the 360. It wouldn't be the right time for Microsoft to sunset the hardware quite yet. The low-cost E model would be cheap to manufacture and ensure people could use Xbox Live Gold. Not to mention some amazing games that were releasing cross-platform, such as Titanfall or Rise of the Tomb Raider. The Xbox 360's last days were here, but Microsoft wanted as many people as possible on their hardware, and the low-cost Xbox 360E would be a great entry point. And if you are on the lookout for an Xbox 360, then I would definitely recommend you take a look at either a Slim model or, if you can, the SE model, because at the end of the day, it's the most up-to-date, recent, the quietest, it's low-powered, it doesn't run very hot, and you still get all those amazing features of the 360 in 2022. Xbox Live is still up and running, Xbox Live Gold. You can still get access to free games every month. You get a really great backward compatibility library with pretty much half the original Xbox catalog available to you without any weird licensing issues and stuff. You can play games like Project Gotham Racing, Jet Set Radio Future. These games will never be available on the Series X backward compatibility program. So you've got a really good pick of OG Xbox games at your disposal as well. And for the most part, the emulation is pretty good. So I would say if you are on the market for a 360, check out the 360E. I really like my special edition unit, and I've really had a lot of fun covering this on the channel for you guys. But let me know what you thought about this episode in the comments below. We are going to leave it here for now. Thank you so much for watching. If you liked it, don't forget to put a like on it, and I'll catch you guys in the next video. Bye for now.